must be wearied and jostled.
I have news of Lady Catherine's delicate consideration and civility in inviting us to dine at Rosings the next night but one. Do not make yourself uneasy, fair cousin, about your apparel. Lady Catherine will not think the worse of you for being simply dressed.
You must not be surprised, dear Eliza, that Mr. Darcy will be in attendance this evening, bringing with him a Colonel Fitzwilliam, the younger son of his uncle.
It is my pleasure to introduce the Right Honourable Lady Catherine de Bourgh, my eminent patroness, whose wit, affability and condescension make her the admired ornament of the entire...
Yes, quite so. You are, I believe, Elizabeth Bennet.
I am.
Your father's estate is entailed on Mr. Collins, I think. For your sake, I am glad of it, but otherwise I see no occasion for entailing estates from the female line. A word, Mr. Collins.
Miss Bennet, I had not hoped to find you here.
Nor I.
Will you allow me to present Colonel Fitzwilliam?
Your beauty oft reported exceeds Miss Bennet.
This has not been true, Colonel Fitzwilliam, in all quarters.
Miss Bennet, your family.
My family?
How many sisters have you, Miss Bennet?
I have 4 sisters.
That is a great many. Are you the eldest?
I am the second.
Are they handsome?
Indeed.
Do your sisters sing and play? Do you draw?
No, not at all.
What, none of you? That is very strange. Has your governess left you?
We never had a governess.
No governess? How is that possible? 5 daughters brought up at home without a governess. I never heard of such a thing. Your mother must have been quite the slave to your education.
Not, perhaps, as your ladyship might think.
But who taught you? Who attended to you?
Such of us as wished to learn never wanted the means. We were always encouraged to read, and books were always provided. Those who chose to be idle certainly might.
Aye, no doubt. But that is what a governess will prevent. Had I known your mother, I should have advised her most strenuously to engage one. Are any of your younger sisters out?
Yes, ma'am, all.
All? All 5 out at once? Very odd. The youngest out before the eldest are married.
But really, ma'am, I think it would be very hard upon younger sisters that they not have their share of society of amusement, because the elder may not have the means or inclination to marry early.
By my word, you give your opinion very decidedly for so young a person. Pray, what is your age?
With 3 younger sisters grown up, your ladyship can hardly expect me to own it.
What are you saying, Fitzwilliam? What are you telling Miss Bennet?
We were talking of music, madam.
Oh, of music. Then pray, speak aloud.
I was merely reminding Miss Bennet of her earlier promise to favour us at the pianoforte.
Oh, yes. Pray excuse me. I fear you will not find me a great proficient. Pray, continue your conversation rather than attend me.
I am always telling young ladies that no excellence in music is to be attained without constant practice.
entertain any design of alarming you. I have had the pleasure of your acquaintance long enough to know that you take great pleasure in occasionally professing opinions which are not, in fact, your own.
Your cousin will give you a very pretty notion of me and teach you not to believe a word I say. Take care, sir, for you are provoking me to retaliate, and such things may come out as will shock your relations to hear.
I am not afraid of you.
Pray, let me hear what you accuse him of. I should like to hear how such a paragon behaves among strangers.
You shall hear then, but prepare for something very dreadful. The first time of my ever seeing him was at a ball, and he refused to dance. And more than one young lady was sitting down in want of a partner.
I had not, at the time, the honor of knowing any lady in the assembly, and I am ill qualified to recommend myself to strangers.
Shall we ask him why, a man of sense and education, who has lived in the world, is ill qualified to recommend himself to strangers?
I have not the talent for conversing easily with those I have never seen before.
Well, fortunately for all present, that is not the case here. Strangely and unexpectedly, after our delightful evening at Lady Catherine de Bourgh's, the two gentlemen came often of an afternoon to the parsonage. It was plain that Colonel Fitzwilliam came because he took pleasure in Charlotte's and my society. But why Mr. Darcy came so often was more difficult to understand.
If you would not love me to scorn, dear Eliza, I might suggest the possibility of his being partial to you.
The gentleman seldom meets my eyes, and frequently sits there 10 minutes together without opening his lips.
Ah, but he often looks at you quite appraisingly when your look is engaged elsewhere.
Stop. I am going for a ramble in the park.
Ah, Miss Elizabeth.
Colonel Fitzwilliam, I did not know you ever walked this way.
Are you going much further?
No, I should have turned in a moment. Do you certainly leave Kent on Saturday?
Oh, if Darcy doesn't put it off again.
I do not know anybody who seems more to enjoy the power of doing what he likes than Mr. Darcy.
But so we all do. It is merely that he has a better means of having it than the rest of us. And I am at his disposal.
I imagine your cousin brought you down with him for the sake of having somebody at his disposal. I wonder he does not marry to secure a lasting convenience of that kind. But perhaps his sister does as well for the present, as she is under his sole care.
Actually, I am joined in guardianship of Miss Darcy.
Are you indeed? Young ladies of her age are sometimes a little difficult to manage, and if she has true Darcy spirit, she may like to have her own way.
In fact, she's one of the most tractable creatures in the world, and a great favourite of Miss Bingley. I think I heard you say you know her.
A little. Mr. Darcy is uncommonly kind to Mr. Bingley, and takes a prodigious deal of care of him.
From something Darcy said, I have reason to think Bingley very much indebted to him. It is not a circumstance which Darcy could wish to be generally known, for if it were to get round to the lady's family, it would be an unpleasant thing.
You may, of course, depend on my not mentioning it.
He told me merely that he congratulated himself on having recently saved a friend from the inconveniences of a most imprudent marriage. And I only suspected it to be Bingley because his open nature might get him in a scrape of that sort.
Pardon me, but I do not see what right Mr. Darcy had to decide on the propriety of a friend's inclination.
As I recall, there were some very strong objections to the lady's family. One was a country attorney, and another had some sort of mercantile background, and possibly an unsuitable mother. But this is all conjecture. Good day, Miss Bennet.
To Jane herself, there could be no possibility of objection. All goodness and loveliness as she is. Neither could anything be urged against my father, who, though with some peculiarities, has abilities Mr. Darcy himself need not disdain. Of course, my mother... But Mr. Darcy would receive a deeper wound from the want of importance in his friends' connections than from their want of sense. He has been governed by this worst kind of pride, and partly from the wish of retaining Mr. Bingley for his sister.
Miss Bennet,
Mr. Darcy.
may I... Would it be suitable to inquire of your health?
My health.
Yes, as I have not encountered you these past few days, I come to inquire of your health.
My health, Mr. Darcy, meets all the usual standards.
Ah.
Yes.
Ah. In vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I love and admire you. I see I dismay you. I am slow, even dilatory. I should have declared myself at an earlier date. But there were, of course, the family obstacles that judgment always opposed to inclination. The general sense of your social inferiority, of it being a degradation of the line. I could not forget my responsibility to an estate, a way of life, a pride of place that, given your circumstances, might disinclude you. And thus the very honesty I spoke of took place against my will and reason, or rather in opposition to my character and inclination. But the very strength of my attachment has made it impossible for me to suppress these feelings, and now I can only express the hope they will be rewarded with your acceptance of my hand. There. I have spoken ill, but mean well, Miss Bennet.
In such cases as this, it is, I believe, the established mode to express a sense of obligation for the sentiments avowed. However unequally they may be returned. It is natural that obligation should be felt, and if I could feel gratitude, I would now thank you. But I cannot. I have never desired your good opinion, and you have certainly bestowed it most unwillingly. I am sorry to have occasioned pain to anyone, but it has been most unconsciously done, and I hope will be of short duration. The feelings which you tell me have long prevented the acknowledgement of your regard can have little difficulty in overcoming it after this explanation.
And this is all the reply I am to have the honor of expecting? I might wish to know why, with so little endeavor at civility, I am thus rejected.
I might as well inquire why with so evident a design of offending and insulting me, you chose to tell me that you liked me against your will, against your reason, and even against your character. Was not this some excuse for incivility if I was uncivil? But I have other provocations. You know I have. Do you think any consideration would tempt me to accept the man who has been the means of ruining, perhaps forever, the happiness of a beloved sister? You divided Mr. Bingley and Jane from each other, or at the very least yours were the principal means, involving them both in misery of the acutest kind. Can you deny that you have done it?
I have no wish to deny that I separated my friend from your sister, or that I rejoice in my success. To him I have been kinder than towards myself.
Quite clearly said. But it is not merely this affair on which my dislike of you is founded. Your character was unfolded in the recital which I received many months ago from Mr. Wickham.
You take an eager interest in that gentleman's concerns.
Knowing his misfortunes, who would not feel an interest in him.
His misfortunes?
As of your infliction. You have withheld the advantages which you must know to have been designed for him. And yet you treat the mention of his misfortunes with contempt.
And this is your opinion of me. I thank you for having explained it so fully. These bitter accusations might have been suppressed had I, with greater policy, flattered you into the belief of my being impelled by unqualified, unalloyed inclination. A disguise of every sort is my abhorrence.
You are mistaken, Mr. Darcy. If you think that the mode of your declaration affected me in any other way, then as it spared me the concern I might have felt in refusing you, had you behaved in more gentlemanlike manner. You could not have made me the offer of your hand in any possible way that would have tempted me to accept it. From the very beginning, your arrogance and selfish disdain for the feelings of others have built an immovable dislike. You are, Mr. Darcy, the last man in the world whom I could ever be prevailed on to marry.
You have said quite enough, madam. I perfectly comprehend your feelings. Please forgive me for having taken up so much of your time, and accept my best wishes for your health and happiness.
There will now be a 10-minute intermission.